In episode 150 of the Guitar Music Theory podcast, I answer more listener questions about using guitar modelers, PRS guitars, playing slide, playing in drop D tuning, and more. Greetings, guitar engineers. Welcome to the Guitar Music Theory podcast. I am your host, Desi Cerna, author of Fretboard Theory, Guitar Theory for Dummies, Guitar Rhythm and Technique for Dummies, Guitar Picking Mechanics, and more. Today, I'm going to answer more listener questions. I've got questions about using guitar modelers, questions about PRS guitars, questions about applying scales, questions about working through struggles as a beginner, playing slide guitar, playing in drop D tuning, and I've got a good question about arranging songs to play solo acoustic guitar gigs. Maybe I'm going to talk about something today that is just the sort of thing you should be working on right now. Or maybe your guitar playing needs attention in other areas. If you need help determining what you should specifically be working on right now in order to become a better guitar player, go to my website, guitarmusictheory.com. Answer the question I ask you about your playing, and I'll send you free custom video instruction that is calibrated to your current level. Whether you're a beginner still needing to learn the basics, or you need help with bar chords, finger picking, guitar soloing, playing worship guitar, or you want to delve deeply into music theory, I have a free video course for you. I can put you on a plan to fill gaps in your knowledge and fill gaps in your playing so you can move forward and reach your music goals. Enroll in your free video course now at guitarmusictheory.com. You can click on the link in the podcast show notes. All right, so we are ready to dive in. The first question comes from Bob, and he says, Desi, I am thinking about purchasing a Kemper profiling amplifier, but when I went on their website, they have so many models to choose. We have a small band with lead guitar, acoustic guitar, bass, and a sax player, and practice about once a week. Can you recommend which model I should purchase? Sure, yeah. So the Kemper profiling amplifier, most people are familiar with it at this point. It's been around since 2011. It's kind of like the best that the digital, quote, modeling amplifier has to offer. Some people listening just cringed because they're like, Desi, it's not modeling, it's profiling. That's why it's called the profiling amplifier. That is true. So if you're not familiar with it, it's basically just a digital guitar amplifier device that captures the sound of real amplifiers, and then you can use those sounds and add effects. And it's got a floorboard, and you can, you can save presets and stuff. And I use the Kemper, so I've been using the Kemper for years. That's what I'm using here right now. Let's give you a little sample. I'm using my PRS McCarty 594. It's got Seymour Duncan 59 pickups in it. This is the performance that I have. It's called Cover Band, and it's basically just got an array of sounds that I use for a cover band. Like here's a clean sound, and then I can kind of get a little crunchy here. So. And then I can get more kind of overdriven. And I've got then some lead sounds in here. What do I want to do? you know. And I can switch back and forth, with the foot switches and stuff. I actually use this for when I play in the band, The Heart of Rock and Roll, which is a tribute to Huey Lewis and the News. So this is specifically kind of programmed for that set list, but it could work for any sort of cover band thing. Anyway, the question is, if you wanted to get a Kemper, which model do I recommend that you choose? So there's actually only one Kemper in the sense that, it's a software-based, digital amp profiler. And then you can just choose whether you get it in one piece or two pieces. So one piece is this floorboard that's got all the hardware and software, built right into it. And, all of the knobs and foot switches are there. Or if you get the two-piece version, you have like a head, and that's where the software is, and then you have to connect an external foot switch floorboard, and that's where your foot switches are then. And so it just matters. Do you want two pieces or one piece? The one piece is called the stage, and the two piece is called the classic profiler or something like that. But it's the same sounds, runs the same software and stuff like that. Some people like the stage because it's just less pieces. All you need is the stage and a power cable, and that's it. And it's easier and more portable. If you get the head with the separate floorboard, then you need the head, power cable, floorboard, and then you need to have a cable to connect the floorboard to the head. And it takes up more space. The stage, where everything is all in one, is just a lot more compact. I think you lose some switches. They had to get rid of some things, but you still have access to all the same stuff and parameters. It's just you access it a little bit differently in the all-in-one stage. Some people might prefer the separate pieces because they want to have the head sitting up on a desktop where they can reach it more easily with their hands, and then have the foot controller at their feet, so that you're not always needing to bend over and get into the edit menus and stuff down on the floor. So, that's something to consider. So I have, my Kemper is actually sitting on a little rack that's just directly under the top of my desk, and then I have the floorboard at my feet, so I can reach over here to the Kemper without having to reach all the way down to the ground. And so I guess that kind of works well for me here when I'm at home. When I'm taking this out to play somewhere, it might be better if I just had one unit. That'd be easier to transport. So once you figure out whether you want the one-piece unit or the two-piece unit, the next thing you need to do is figure out how you're going to monitor it, because it doesn't have any speakers. So you have to either connect it to a soundboard or PA system or your computer interface, like I'm doing here. This, it's connected to my computer, and I'm recording this in Logic, and I'm, mic'd up and everything. And I have some studio monitors, and so I'm hearing it through studio monitors. You could just plug headphones directly into the Kemper, and it does have an auxiliary audio input, so I could connect some, like a phone or laptop or something like that. And if you know where to look and you know how to navigate in the menus, you can adjust the level of that auxiliary audio input. So I could just use headphones and then mix the sound of my guitar and the sound of the music that I'm playing along with that's coming in that aux input. Another thing you could do is just connect it to a cabinet, in which case you want an FRFR cabinet. That stands for Flat Response Full Frequency. You usually don't want to plug the Kemper into a regular guitar cabinet, because the cabinet is part of the sound of an amp and it colors the sound. Well, that's already in the amp profiles that's in the Kemper. That's kind of the whole purpose of the Kemper, is it's profiling the amp circuitry and the cabinet and the speaker and everything. So you don't want to have something, you don't want to take that sound and then put it through another cabinet. That's like coming out of your amp. It's like micing your amp and then taking that mic and putting it through another guitar amp. Like you wouldn't want to do that. So you use a cabinet that's essentially like a PA system. It's just like a little PA system, but it looks like a little wedge monitor, or it looks like a cabinet, but it's a full range flat response. It's just going to amplify it without coloring it or anything like that. So Kemper make a cabinet. It's called the Kemper cabinet, and they spell it with a K because Kemper spelled with a K, so Kemper cabinet. But you don't have to use the Kemper cabinet. You can go on Sweetwater or Guitar Center's website and just search for FR guitar cabinet. One of the more popular ones is called the Headbrush, and it's inexpensive. I think it's under $300 here in the United States, and it's less than the Kemper cabinet, and it's got good reviews. So some people like that. It's kind of shaped like a wedge monitor, so you can put it on the ground and it kind of points up at you, or you can stand it up that way. So that's what you have to figure out. And then when you use the Kemper Live, what most people do is, well, it depends on the situation. Most people the Kemper is going to be connected directly to the PA. That's kind of the whole point. You don't have to have the amps. You don't have to mic up the speakers or anything like that. You can go direct to the PA and get this glorious sound. And then your sound man would send some of that signal back to either a floor monitor on the stage for you to monitor, or if you're using in-ear monitors, it's going to be sent to the in-ear monitor system, and you can monitor yourself that way. So I mentioned earlier that I play with an act called the Heart of Rock and Roll, and I've done a few shows with them, and sometimes we have in-ears that are provided by the venue, in which case I'm hearing the Kemper in my in-ears along with the rest of the band. And then sometimes we perform the old-fashioned way, where we don't use in-ears and we use wedge monitors. So I'm hearing some of the noise on stage from the instruments, particularly like the drums and the horn and that sort of thing. And then my voice is coming through a wedge monitor, and the other instruments are coming through the wedge monitor, and I work with the sound man to get a mix there. My Kemper's connected directly to the PA. I'm hearing it either through the wedge monitor, or I bring my Kemper cabinet and I've got that set as kind of a little side fill off to the side, and I can hear my guitar that way, and it also kind of shoots across the stage, so some of the other musicians can pick up on my guitar that way as well. So that's the Kemper. Do you need one? It depends. They're not as inexpensive as other options, so they're pricier, and they're more complicated. Some people might prefer something with just less options and with an interface that's a little easier to use, like a Helix or maybe even something simpler. So I think the Kemper, in my opinion, is the best sounding and the best feeling of all the options. So to me, it's totally worth the price. And I don't like digital interfaces. I'm kind of old school. I wish I just had an amp and some pedals in front of me and I can see all the knobs and just reach out and grab them. I hate navigating through menus to try to adjust a particular parameter. And with digital devices like the Kemper, a nice thing is they'll give you more control over parameters than you would normally have. But that also can be kind of overwhelming. It is for me, at least. But anyway, I deal with those things that I don't like because it sounds so good, and it really is ideal for me, for what I do with the podcast here, or my videos, or the lessons that I have in my member area, and for the gigs that I play. And I use it at church as well, and it's great because no stage volume at all, and I can hear everything in the in-ear system, and I can get glorious tones that sound like real amps that are all mic'd up. So my verdict is, if you're going to get the Kemper, just be prepared to spend some money and be prepared to have to read that menu and learn how the system works. And if you're someone that, you got to make a decision whether or not it's worth all the trouble to do that. Because you could just get yourself like a Boss Katana 50 for $300 or something like that. They sound good. They've got just a handful of amp models on there and some built-in basic effects. But honestly, it kind of has everything you'd need just to, tinker around and practice at home or go play in a garage band or something like that. So it's like, you might not need to spend any more, or you might not need anything that's more complicated than that. So that's my opinion. All right, our next question is also about amps. So we're going to talk more about this. It comes from Alan, and he says, so I use, per your recommendation, a Yamaha THR, and it's been great. I would like to take a step up in the digital world for something with better tones. Budget is not really an issue. All the modelers out there are good. My question is the setup to be able to continue practicing with songs either from my phone or MacBook. If I get a Kemper or Helix or whatever, what would be a good way to start? I know I can plug headphones into any of these units, but I would like to hear through a good speaker. I do not currently have any desk monitors. Maybe that's a good place to start. Or I was thinking the Kemper with an FR cabinet and play the songs through that so I can hear my guitar in the mix like I do with the Yamaha THR. Anyway, sometimes there's too much gear out there to choose from. What do you recommend? So he had said that, per my recommendation, he's using the Yamaha THR. So the Yamaha THR, along with like the Boss Katana Air or the Positive Grid Spark, or these are all kind of like these small little desktop bedroom amplifiers that have they're digital and they have kind of a variety of amp tones and some basic effects and stuff. And they're really ideal for getting started with electric guitar because you don't need a 50-watt amplifier. That's overkill for not only many stages, but it's certainly overkill for your bedroom. You'd be lucky to get it past, 1 or 1.5. So sometimes a much smaller, lower-powered amplifier just sounds better and is easier to use in a smaller space, and they have kind of a variety of sounds in them that so you can. They're very versatile, and so the Yamaha was one that I had recommended, and that's what Alan was using. But he's ready to take a step up, and then he wants to know, like, okay, if he gets something, like, what is his setup? Is he connecting it to a cabinet? Is he using headphones? Is he going to use studio monitors? Like, what's he going to do? So I replied to Alan, and I gave him two options. So one option would be to get a good Bluetooth speaker to play music from your phone or your laptop, and then upgrade the amp to the Boss Katana 50, which I mentioned earlier. The Boss Katana 50 has 50 watts of power, and it's loud enough to play like in a band setting. But you can also, because it's digital, you can play at very low volumes too, and it'll sound just as good, and you have control over the sound. It also has an auxiliary input if you want to connect some music to it, and then plug headphones into it and monitor everything, your guitar and the music, with headphones. And you can go on Amazon or anywhere to look at like a good Bluetooth speaker. Kind of the larger it gets in size, the more bass response there is and stuff. But some Bluetooth speakers can sound fantastic, and they have a good amount of volume, so you can play your music through them and crank it up, and then turn your amp up a little bit, and you can really be jamming that way. And that might be easier, it's particularly if you want to sound like it's a live setting. Sometimes when you use the headphones, the sound is good and it's very controlled and it's clear, but it doesn't always kind of give you the same experience as just feeling yourself really pushing air through a speaker, and feeling those vibrations in your body, depending on how loudly you turn things up. So you could just upgrade to an amp, like a combo amp like that, and a good Bluetooth speaker. Another option is that you can get a Kemper or a Helix or any sort of modeler. And if you, for those listening, if you're not familiar with the modelers, just go to Google and just search, best guitar modeler amplifier or guitar modeling amplifier. The most popular ones are going to be the Line 6 for sure. And then you have the Kemper, then you have Fractal Audio, you've got Neural, DSP, Quad Cord Tex. Fender now has one, the Fender Tone Master, which I've heard good things about. And there are others. I think Blackstar has one. There's Tonex. There's lots of options, and they're all at kind of different price points. With so you can just kind of explore those and read reviews. So you could get something like that, and then you can connect that to a small mixer. Buy yourself like a small, 4-channel mixer or something like that. So you're connecting, let's just say you got a Helix, a Line 6 Helix. You connect the Helix to that. You can connect audio from your laptop or your phone to the mixer. And then you can plug headphones into the mixer, and you can mix and hear your guitar and the music, or you can connect that mixer to an FR cabinet or just some studio monitors or something like that. So let me explain the setup that I use here. I'm not saying it's the setup that I would recommend necessarily, but you might be curious what my setup is. It's kind of put together specifically for my needs here. So my guitar goes through the Kemper, and then I'm mic'd up, and these things are connected to a Scarlett Focusrite interface. I got the big one, the big boy. It's the 18i20. So my Kemper's connected to it, my mic, this thing is connected to it, and then I either connect my phone to it for audio, or I come out of the headphone output of my computer into inputs on the Scarlett and for audio. I have some other things I might connect to it also, like I might connect an acoustic guitar, I might connect some percussion or something like that. And this goes into the computer, and then I'm recording in Logic Pro for Mac. That's Apple's audio recording software. And then for my monitors, I am using iLoud monitors. And if you just go to Amazon and search iLoud monitors, I think there's just one. Is there just one model here? IK Multimedia iLoud Micro Monitor 50-watt portable wireless Bluetooth studio reference monitors. I think these are great. They're very small. I like to keep the volume very low here when I work. I use this setup when I record a podcast, or when I'm doing a Zoom lesson, or when I'm recording my videos as well. This is the setup that I use. Some people might scoff at the iLoud monitors because they're $300 monitors, and they want, if you're really into music production and mixing or music mastering, some people want something that is going to offer a much higher quality so they can, but I just don't need that. I just don't need that for what I do. They sound good enough for me to hear music and hear my guitar and monitor what I'm doing. And I just didn't feel like it. I just didn't feel like I needed to spend any more than that. So that's my setup. Again, that's not necessarily a setup that I recommend that you use. This just happens to work well because I'm always at my desk in front of my iMac computer and recording this way. And so this just works really well for my setup. All right, enough about gear. Let's get into some questions about playing music. All right, this next question is from David, and he says, Desi, I bought your book, Fretboard Theory, and I have a question about Chapter 7, Applying Scales. My band is playing On the Dark Side by John Cafferty, and I'm putting together a guitar solo in place of the sax solo. It looks like the song is in the key of A major, 5-1-4, similar to the chord progression to What I Like About You by the Romantics. E major seems to be the root chord, so based on Chapter 7, I would play E major pentatonic. Is this correct, or should I focus on A major pentatonic, since that's the key of the song? I'm new to this stuff. Thanks. So let's jump ahead to this solo section. So he's right, it's kind of similar to What I Liked About You. The chords are E, A, D, A. Let's just listen to the chord changes here for a second. We'll ignore the sax. And it changes here. So same progression, everything just moved up a fourth. So instead of starting it on E, you started on A, in which case the chords are A, D, G, D, A, D, G, D, and it's probably going to go back to E, A, and D. And then, okay, that's B, and this solo's over there. So, okay, you can analyze this and say, all right, yeah, E, A, and D, those are the three major chords from the A major scale. They're chords 5, 1, and 4. So this is kind of a Mixolydian thing, E Mixolydian mode. So you could play the E Mixolydian mode over this. Let's see what that sounds like. So I'm playing A major scale patterns, but the 5th degree E is the tonic pitch here. So, right? Okay, and that works. If I listen to the sax, though, it sounds like he's mainly just playing major pentatonic, E major pentatonic. You know, that sort of stuff. You know, maybe a little, was there a minor third in there? G natural, like the E major blues scale. So that would be. So you could just kind of do major pentatonic stuff and maybe just think more like a guitar player, you know. Whoops, where's my sound? Whatever. Think Allman Brothers, major pentatonic stuff. That would probably be most similar to what the sax is doing. Put a little minor third in there, G natural, the blues scale, something like that. Now, when it switches chords and it goes up to A, it's kind of like you're in the key of E and it's like a 1-4-5 chord progression. They're kind of repeating that little chord vamp on the 4 chord A. You know, it's kind of like doing. And the sax player just stays in the same scale, so it's still just major pentatonic. You know? He's got some chromatic stuff in there, sounds like. But the bass pattern is kind of major pentatonic. That's what we would think of. And then he's out once that B comes in. You might also be able to treat this like a blues and do E minor pentatonic. Let me back it up. So. It could work. I guess my ear is so used to the major pentatonic since I was just playing it and I'm hearing the sax player play those notes. But anyway, that's my take on this, just to answer that listener's question there. And if all this talk about modes and stuff or 145 is over your head, go out and get a copy of my book, either Fretboard Theory or Guitar Theory for Dummies. And you can learn that stuff. If you're more of a video learner, head over to the website, guitarmusictheory.com, and get yourself enrolled in a free course, and that would be the place to start. We are moving on, and the next question, this is a fun one. James sent me an email, and he says, why is it that the words to Pinball Wizard fit perfectly with the song Folsom Prison Blues? So you can apparently take the words to Pinball Wizard by The Who, and you can just fit them over Folsom Prison Blues by Johnny Cash, change the melody up, and they work. And so I'd never thought about that before, so I picked up a guitar and tried singing along, and sure enough, it worked. And I had so much fun with it, I called my daughter into the room and I said, hey, make a video of me singing this really quick. And I threw it up on my Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. I'm on my Instagram right here, Desi Cerna Guitar. Let's listen to what this sounds like. I'm The Who. Ever since I was a young boy, I played the silver ball. From Soho down to Brighton, well, I must have played them all. But I ain't seen nothing like him in any amusement hall. Well, that deaf dumb like him sure plays a mean pinball. Then I thought, will it work the other way? Yes, it will. All right, there's me singing The Who over Johnny Cash and Johnny Cash over The Who. So he had gone on in his email, like, why does it work? Is it something to do with the key, the scale, the mode? It has nothing to do with those things. It's just simply that the words happen to rhythmically fit if you switch them on the songs. That's all. And that's not uncommon because both songs are a similar tempo. Both songs are in 4/4 time. 1, 2, 3, 4, and both songs are following a very common and typical verse structure. So it's not surprising at all that you could just take the words from one and fit it to the melody of the other. And you could do that with a lot of songs. I'm sure there's a lot of other songs that you could take the words and sing it, switch the melody and sing it over Folsom Prison Blues or vice versa. But that is kind of fun how that works, and I had a lot of fun just playing around with that. So you guys can give that a try too, and if you want to see my video, just head over to any one of my social media profiles. Just go to Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. I think I put it on TikTok as well. Just search Desi Cerna Guitar Johnny Cash, and you'll find it. And you know what? While we're at it, if you go to my Instagram or Facebook page, Desi Cerna Guitar, I actually posted some clips of some of my recent performances with The Heart of Rock and Roll, America's #1 tribute to Huey Lewis and the News. Let's hear what this is. That's a little bit of the song Honky Tonk Blues by Huey Lewis and the News. What is this? This is Doing It All for My Baby. Yeah, that's a great song. I was using my McCarty 594s on the neck pickup, and I had it in split coil mode there. So yeah, you might find it fun just to see some of these clips and watch me play. And I do sing some backups too. And what is this? Oh, I want a new drug. And that's all you're going to get. If you want to hear more and see more, head over to Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Did I put some of these on YouTube? I don't think I put them on YouTube, but just search Desi Cerna Guitar at those other social media platforms and check out my videos. And make sure that you're following and subscribing and liking and commenting and sharing and all that good stuff. We are moving on, and it's another gear question. Then hopefully we have some more questions about actual music theory. So this is from Jeff. He says, hey, Desi, I have been looking at a new electric, and I'm curious, what draws you to PRS instruments? What models of electrics do you use? I'm drawn to PRS instruments. I got one back in the 90s, and I just liked it. And, the brand has really grown, and they make fantastic guitars, some of the finest built guitars you can get. Even their more budget-friendly instruments that are made overseas are excellent quality. So I've just always loved them, and some of them were quite versatile, and so they work well if you're doing the cover band gig, which I was doing a lot of in the past and stuff like that. But they also ended up becoming supporters of what I do. So now I have a relationship with them. You'll notice that their guitars are featured on the covers of my books, and I use them quite a bit in my videos and stuff like that. So it's a great company, great instruments, great company to work with. They've been very supportive to people like me. So you can't go wrong with a PRS guitar. If it fits what the type of music that you're playing. The most important thing to think about when you purchase a guitar is, number one, is it going to create an appropriate sound for what you're trying to cover? In which case you want to think about the pickups, what kind of pickups are in it. If you're doing Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix, well, they use Stratocaster guitars with Stratocaster single coil pickups. So a PRS guitar, even though it's nice, it's got humbucking pickups in it. You can split them, but it's not the same as playing a Stratocaster. And so it might not be the best choice if you're really focusing on playing music that is kind of strictly played on a Stratocaster. On the other hand, like if you're trying to play songs that are very humbucker driven, humbucker rock, with that thick humbucker sound, then maybe choosing a Strat wouldn't be the best choice, even though you might like the look of it and the feel of it. It might take too much work to try to get it to sound like what you're trying to cover, and you may not get there fully, and you might be disappointed. So, if you're playing stuff like Van Halen and Guns N' Roses and stuff where they used humbuckers, then a PRS guitar or any guitar that's equipped with humbuckers can be good. If you're playing something that's twangy and it was playing on Telecasters, well, then maybe you want to consider getting a Telecaster If you're playing stuff that's Strat, based, then kind of get a Strat. So you want to think about pickup configuration, like is this going to be appropriate, for what you're playing, and then from there, once you've got the right pickups, think about, okay, what do you think looks cool, and what do you think feels good, because there's different neck shapes and sizes and that sort of thing. The way that the guitar is cut, the body affects how it rests on your lap or how it might hang on a shoulder strap. Think about the horn on a Stratocaster, and then think about a Telecaster, which has no horn at all. And then think about maybe like a Gibson 335, much bigger body with those big Mickey Mouse ears. Maybe you never thought about this, but not only is that all those guitars are going to rest a little differently on your leg when you're sitting down, but they also feel differently when you put the straps on it, because of the horns and where the strap attaches and stuff like that. So it's important to, if you can, get your hand on some guitars, sit down, put a strap on, stand up, and determine what feels comfortable to you. So in regard to which PRS models I play specifically, right now what I have is a McCarty 594. This has got like that two-piece Les Paul style stop tail bridge on it. But then I also have a DGT, that stands for the David Grissom Trem model, which is similar, but it's got the PRS floating trem system. So I got the whammy bar on that one. And then I have a Mira, M-I-R-A, and I actually took the pickups out of that, and that's got P90 pickups in it. Then I have like a Squier Telly. I've got an Epiphone semi-hollow body. I've got a Bluesman Vintage Strat style guitar. So I can kind of cover all of the basic electric guitar sounds that you'd hear. I've got this McCarty 594 is very similar to a Les Paul. Then I have the DGT, and it's got the trem system if I want to do some whammy bar work. I've got the Mira that's got P90 pickups if I want that soap bar P90 pickup sound. I've got a Telecaster style guitar with the Telecaster pickups. I've got the Stratocaster style guitar with Stratocaster style pickups. And then I've got the semi-hollow, the big semi-hollow with the F holes. Yeah, that's right. They're called F holes. And so I can get a variety of sounds. But hey, you can't go wrong with the PRS guitars. They're great. But you know what? I mean, we really live in like an ideal time to be a guitar player, because there's a variety of gear from different manufacturers. It's all really good quality stuff. So, explore your options. Find something that's a good fit for the style of music you're going to be playing. Play them out. Go out and play them, and see how they feel on your lap. See how they feel when you stand up. See how those neck shapes and sizes feel and everything like that, and just get something that's comfortable. We are moving on. Steve, who is enrolled in my free Beginner 101 video course available on my website, says, Desi, I am struggling. I just can't get the timing, chord changes and strumming, lots of muted strings and getting behind on changes. I don't want to try moving forward until I have successfully completed the first stage. My guitar, a vintage Alvarez, has a tough action. I'd like to buy a newer guitar, but just can't justify the expense at this point. Thanks for any help. Well, look, when you're, Beginner 101 is a free course on my website. Just go there. You'll see I ask you a question about your playing, and you'll see some different options. And one of them says that, hey, you're brand new and you still need to learn the basics. Click that link, and it'll take you to my course, Beginner Guitar 101, and it's free. And I'll get you started from scratch. And you can share that too if you know anyone that's getting started with guitar or anything. Share that. It's absolutely free. So just copy that link and send it to them. But what Steve is describing here, it's typical. I mean, this is how my experience was when I was first learning. Like, I couldn't get all the notes to ring clearly on the chords, and I had trouble keeping up with the changes, getting my fingers to the next chord shape in time, and getting the strum pattern right. So we all struggle with this sort of thing, and it just takes patience. And you just got to stick with the program that I have there, where I train you to do all those things, and be consistent. Ideally, you would play every single day. I know that something's going to interfere here and there, so you'll miss days at times. But if you plan on practicing every day, then you'll probably at least get 4, 5, 6 days in a week, and that would be really good. Um, no, I will say that um, how well a guitar plays makes a huge impact on how easy it is to learn. You know, there are some guitars that are so difficult to play that even I would struggle to play them now, let alone when I was a beginner. So I do talk about that in the course. Like, if you're serious about learning, then you need to get a good instrument, an instrument that's good enough that you can learn on. It doesn't necessarily have to be expensive, but if you're like, well, I've got this old hand-me-down and I'm not going to spend any money until I can prove that I can play this thing. Well, you might be playing an instrument that's a piece of junk, and even I would struggle to make music on it. So how are you going to know if you can really play? You're not giving yourself a fair shot. So a couple of things that I recommend is take your guitar to a guitar tech, someone that knows what they're doing, that can set your guitar up. They can lower the actions. That action refers to the height of the strings off the fretboard. The closer they are to the fretboard, the easier it is to press down and everything. And the guitar will play more in tune. Like, if the strings are too high and you're pulling them down a lot, then you're pulling the strings out of tune, and it can sound bad, and it's difficult on your fingertips and stuff. So sometimes guitars need some adjustments, a truss rod adjustment. Sometimes you need to file some frets and do some work so you can get those strings close to the fretboard to make it easier to play. Something else I recommend is putting on extra light strings or extra light strings. Now, some people would advise against this because they're like, well, you're going to lose tone. Acoustic guitars in particular sound better if you have some thicker strings on there. It produces more volume and a better tone. Yeah, that's true, but it can be tougher to play the thicker the strings are. And if you're a beginner, you don't need to worry about maximizing your tone. It's not like you're recording an album, and so you need to maximize your tone. You're still going to hear yourself just fine with some extra light strings on there, and the thinner strings are just going to be easier on your fingers, and your fingers are just getting started and just learning, and they're going to be tender and sore. So I say put on some extra light strings there, and you'll need to get your guitar set up for them. You can't always just take the strings off and put an extra light set of strings on there, because there's a little tug of war happening between the strings and the neck and everything needs to be balanced. So if you put lighter strings on there, you typically need some adjustments to get the guitar set up properly. And a good setup can make a huge difference on how well a guitar plays. Maybe your guitar can't really be improved on because it's just too cheap or something. And if you're serious about learning, then you need to think about investing in an instrument that you can actually learn on. It doesn't necessarily need to be expensive. You can get a decent guitar that can typically be set up to play easily for, as little as a couple $100, maybe a little bit more. So if guitar is important to you and you really want to give yourself a fair shot at really learning how to play, make sure you have a guitar that's easy to play. Sometimes it might surprise people if you pick up a guitar by a pro, and you might be surprised how easily they play. Like pro players, they're skilled and they've practiced and they have a lot of experience and they've been playing for years, but they also know how to get their guitars set up for optimal playing as well. And typically a lot of, quote, beginner guitars are tough to play. Well, it's tough to learn as a beginner anyway. Why would you want to make things more difficult with a guitar that would even make a veteran, struggle? So think about that. Once you have a guitar that is set up to play optimally, then you just need to be patient with the process. You're still going to, struggle to keep up with some chord changes. You're still going to get some strings ringing that you don't want ringing. It's going to take time to get the feel for the strum patterns and that sort of thing. Follow an easy step-by-step plan like I lay out for you in my free Beginner Guitar 101 course. Do it consistently, practice every day, and I think you'll make the progress that you're looking for. If you need any extra help, you can just go to my website and click on the private lesson link, and we can connect over Zoom, which sometimes isn't a bad thing to do, every now and then, just to kind of check in and just make sure that everything's going well. And maybe if you have a couple little snags or something that you haven't been able to, figure out, I can help you with that. Next, Gary says, Desi, have you ever considered doing some instructional video with a slide? Gary, I have not. And the reason why is because I am a pretty awful slide player. I would not be the right guy to do that. Okay, there's some of my awful slide playing. I never really got into slide much, and I'm not very good at it. It's just not my thing. I do talk about basic slide technique, and in my book, Guitar Rhythm and Technique for Dummies, not to be confused with Guitar Theory for Dummies. I wrote 2 books for the For Dummies publisher, Guitar Theory for Dummies, Guitar Rhythm and Technique for Dummies. So if you've got one and not the other, you might want to go check that out. So I do talk about the basics of slide technique to help you get started, but it's not something that I'm really strong enough in that I think I could make a course. It might be something in the future where I decide I want to dedicate myself to it, and so I start practicing it, and I get to the point where maybe I could, do a course. Maybe that would be my motivation to start practicing slides so I can make a course. But right now, I just don't play it much at all. In the Huey Lewis show, tribute show that I do, there's one little section that's not played with a slide, but as I was preparing, I thought, you know what? This would be really cool on a slide. So I play one portion of a song with a slide because I just thought it sounded cool. And I thought, you know what? I don't have to be great at this. The audience would still like to see some variety, and they'd like to see me play a little bit of slide. And maybe I'll get better the more I do the show. But anyway, I wouldn't hold your breath on a slide course, Gary. And you know what? While we're at it, this is a good reminder that, as guitar players, we can't be all things. I really admire when someone plays slide really well. And there's part of me that hears that and I think, ooh, I want that. I want to be that. But I can't do everything, I can't say, oh, I want to play slide like Bonnie Raitt, but I want to finger pick like Chet Atkins. I want to finger tap like Eddie Van Halen, and I want to shred like Yngwie Malmsteen, and I want to play legato like Joe Satriani, and I love the feel of John Mayer, and I want to play his. We could just go on and on and on. There's so many, musical styles and techniques and artists that I just love and admire, but I can't be everything, and so I ended up focusing on other techniques. I just didn't play much slide. I played in cover bands for years, and that was great experience. I had to learn all these songs. I had to practice them. I was going out and playing them night after night. Really made me a good player and good musician. And there just really wasn't much slide. Very rarely was there slide in those songs. And when there was slide, I usually just kind of skipped it and played something else. Just because, you kind of have to, have to choose your battles, and I already had my hands full keeping up with the demand of learning all that material for, the various gigs that I was playing. And I just couldn't handle practicing slide on top of that, Some people might be just the opposite though. Some people are like, I loved slide and I really got into it, and maybe they were playing in some bands, maybe they're playing in a blues band or something, and so there was a lot more opportunity for them to play slide, so they got better at it, and but like there's other techniques or things that didn't really come up much in that genre. So everything's a trade-off. We only have so much time. We can only, work on so many things. So just keep that in mind. Like, it's really easy to want to do everything and think that you need to do everything, but you don't. Maybe you are a slide player. Joe Walsh is a great slide player. Joe Walsh has a very limited skill set, but he's a solid slide player. He's got his handful of licks that he plays without the slide. He's put together some iconic songs and solos, and he built his style around just a few things that he does really well. And so, that's what we all need to do. Maybe that includes slide for you, maybe it doesn't, but explore your options, try some different things, see what you might be good at. But at the end of the day, like, you kind of have to just narrow your focus and say, okay, like, what are a few things that I can regularly play and get good at? I can't be all things. All right, next, this comes from, I don't know who it comes from. I didn't write their name down, but he says, "Hey, Desi, I'm not quite a guitar engineer yet, but I was wondering if you could go over some tuning differences. I've been listening to Corey Asbury's new album, Pioneer, and trying to play along, but it seems that he is tuned down a half step or more. I know you're in Nashville and he's in Nashville. Maybe you could have him on the podcast to go over his technique." Well, we're listening to the song "The Promise Is the Same" by Corey Asbury. All right, and so he's definitely tuned down here. Like, immediately I hear that and I'm like, oh, that's drop D, just because I've heard enough drop D. But wait, there's more. Let me pick up my acoustic. It's not plugged in here, but you can still hear it. It'll be picked up by my vocal mic here. So drop D is when you take the sixth string E and you drop it down a whole step to D. So it's an octave lower than the fourth string D. Here's the fourth string D, and then that's drop D. Sometimes you can play the fourth string open, then chime a harmonic at the 12th fret of the sixth string. They should be the same. But wait, there's more, because it might say they're down an additional half step. So instead of it's actually D flat. So I'd have to take all my strings down a half step to E flat tuning, which is not all that uncommon. E flat tuning, everything down a half step, and then I would drop the sixth string down a whole step. So I'd be in drop D. What would we call that? We'd say, if I was talking to another guitar player, I'd say I'm in E flat tuning and then drop D. That's what I would say. But it sounds like, as I hear him arpeggiate the chord, I'm hearing the tonic pitch D, or D flat, if we want to be more specific. But it sounds like an open string, which makes me think that he's in double drop D, so that would have the first string down a whole step as well. So the sixth string is D, fourth string is D, first string is D. So I don't know, maybe there's more to it. He could be in an open dadgag tuning or something like that, but it sounds like it might just be double drop D. I talk about alternate tunings in my book, Guitar Rhythm and Technique for Dummies. Mentioned that earlier. And I referenced some songs. Like when I think of double drop D here, Neil Young's Cinnamon Girl, I want to live with the cinnamon girl. I can be happy rest of my life with this. Okay, that's a sloppy version of it, but that's in double drop D tuning. So it's not a bad song to learn. It's not too difficult, and it can kind of introduce you to what that tuning is like. For regular drop D, and I think some other tunings like Dadgad and Dadgad, that's where you tune the strings D, A, D, G, A, D. See my book, Guitar Rhythm and Technique for Dummies. I've got time for one more. This comes from Mark J, and he says, I'm working on a personal project where I'm trying to learn one new song a week to performance level. Performance means me, solo on guitar, mostly acoustic, and voice. My question is about how to deal with solos, interludes as a soloist. I've thought of some options. Number one, when a solo comes up in a song, I could just skip it. Not ideal, as you often want a break from the verse-chorus repetition. Number two, I could use a looper pedal and solo over it, but then he says that's not always possible. Number three, I could write a modified section, maybe with some chords, soloing, arpeggio things. Then he's got some more ideas. He could just clap and or have audience participation. He could sing a solo or vamp. And then he asks me, what do you think? I know most of your gigs are with a full band, so you may not have to deal with this very often, but I'd be interested in your suggestions. Actually, I played a ton of acoustic stuff over the years, and so I was often in that same sort of situation. What do I do during the guitar solo? And I would typically either skip it, and just go verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, end. Sometimes I would just play the changes, but I just wouldn't, I wouldn't put a solo in there. And sometimes if I was able, I always had a looper pedal when I did my acoustic gigs. I would record myself playing the changes, because sometimes a solo section is based on a chorus or a verse progression. So sometimes what I would do is, and during the verse or chorus, I'd be recording that so that when the solo section came up, I could hit that and go straight into a lead, and I've already got the rhythm there, as opposed to getting to that solo section and then taking that time to record a loop and then add the solo. You could do that too, but sometimes it just gets a little weird, and it was always neat when I could grab those chord changes earlier in the song, and by hitting my loop pedal, I was using one where I could record and then I could stop record without playback. But sometimes I didn't need to stop playback, because let's say that the verse or the chorus is played over repetitive progression, so I could just start record, hit playback. Now I'm strumming along with my rhythm, and then I finish the chorus. And if the solo is played over the same changes, I switch to some lead. And I had a compressor pedal and a little delay pedal that I would use as just to kind of boost and just give my, just add to the sound so my acoustic wasn't so dry when I would do lead stuff. So just to give you some examples of those things I just talked about, if I'm doing something like, if I was doing Don't Stop Believin', which is, you can never go wrong with a song like that, it's a sing-along and it's popular. And you can do it on acoustic, And when it gets to that solo, where is it, I would just skip it, So it's like I'm coming out of the, just go back into that. And then go back into the vocals. Or sometimes you talk to the crowd. That's how you fill space, So you're like, thanks for coming out tonight. This is the last song. Don't forget to tip your bartenders and bar waitresses and all that, something like that. And then you go back into the don't stop believing and so on. So yeah, I would just kind of do a variety of things. I remember I used to do Wish You Were Here. And so the way I would start that song is with, and I would loop that from the beginning. So top of the song, I'm recording. And then when I got to the end, and that's where it restarts. I hit my looper pedal, that plays back, and it goes. Then I come up with the second guitar. So now I've got, which is perfect because that's how the song is played. You hear that first guitar. But then later in the song, after the verses, you go into a solo section and it's played over that. And I've already got it on my looper. So I can stop the looper when I go into the verses. So you think you can tell a heaven from hell, and so on. And then when I get to the end of that, wish you were here, hit the looper pedal. And that comes out because it's still recorded. And then I can go to into some lead stuff. Some songs lend themselves very well to looping, particularly if the whole song is based on the same progression. That was the case with All Along the Watchtower by Jimi Hendrix. The progression is basically... So I just recorded myself playing that at the top of the song, played it back, and then I just strummed along with it, but then I could kind of veer away from the chords a little bit and do stuff like... and do some of the lead fills, and then when after the verses, when it goes into those solo sections, I could do the and go into that. I used extra light gauge of strings on my acoustic guitars back then, and I didn't have a wound third string. That way, it made it easier for me to play leads and bend strings and that sort of thing. So Mark goes on and he says also interestingly, I realized earlier in this process that for solo guitar and voice, you often need to adapt the rhythm guitar part to accommodate the lack of lead and bass and or make playing and singing possible for a mere mortal. I find this process fascinating and am contemplating starting a YouTube channel podcast to demonstrate my solutions, specifically adapting pop rock songs to a solo guitar vocalist format. Well, that would be a bad idea, Mark. There are people that do that. Oh, gosh, I wish I could point you to some channels, but I've had some students over the years say, yeah, I figured out a way to perform this song acoustically because I found this guy in line and I saw how he did it. Sometimes what you can do is just search the title of a song plus the words acoustic guitar cover, and you'll see how other people cover it. But you're right, if you're going to take a song and play it acoustically, sometimes you can't just do what the guitar does in the song because if without the bass and the drums or the keys and other things that are driving the song, you've got nothing to drive your, guitar version. An example of this would be I Want You to Want Me, So when you get into the verses, it's the guitar just goes, I want you to want me. And there's some lead fills and stuff in there. But the song is driven by the drums and the bass and everything. So when I played that, I realized, okay, well, I have to fill that space. So I need to mimic the drum beat and get all those bass notes in there. So my part was, I want you to want me. I need you to need me. I love you to love you. I'm begging you to beg me. And so on, right? What is it? I forgot the changes. Need to look that up. Did that song many times. Okay, I just had to take a moment here. I stopped this recording to figure it out. So you're coming out of the verse, I shine on my own done shoes, put on a brand new shirt, wake up early for work, and if you say that you love me, I did not see you crying. Oh, did not see you crying. And so on. Of course, I had to belt that one out. But anyway, yeah, so I had to do that all the time when I was playing acoustic songs. I had to kind of listen to the feel for the song and figure out how do I adapt my part so that I can drive the song like the way that the drums or the bass or other instruments are driving it. I couldn't just figure out the guitar chords. I had to figure out rhythmically how do I make this work performing it solo. Like I said a moment ago, sometimes you can just search the title of a song plus acoustic guitar cover, watch how other people are doing it. Maybe you need more help than that, because maybe you can find some great cover versions, but you're having a hard time wrapping your mind around what they're actually doing. So that's something we could go over in a private lesson. Just go to the website, click on the link for a private lesson, and we can connect through Zoom, and I can maybe explain, because I've done that many times where people have come to me and said, okay, I found this video, I like this version, but I'm struggling to figure out what they're doing here exactly. So I would kind of break it down for my students and show them how to train themselves how to play it that way. And then sometimes students couldn't find anything, and they're like, I want to play this song, how would you approach it? So I would work with them, and I can record the session and stuff once we get something worked out, and that'll help you put together these arrangements and prepare yourself for your solo performances. All right, podcast 150 is a wrap. If you have questions you would like me to answer in future podcast episodes, just head over to my website, guitarmusictheory.com. Scroll down and click on the contact link and send me your question. Maybe the things I discussed today are just the sort of things you should be working on right now. Or maybe your playing needs attention in other areas. If you need help determining what you should specifically be working on right now in order to become a better guitar player, go to my website, guitarmusictheory.com, answer the question I ask you about your playing, and I'll send you free custom video instruction that is calibrated to your current level. Whether you're a beginner still needing to learn the basics, or you need help with bar chords, finger picking, guitar soloing, playing worship guitar, or you want to delve deeply into music theory, I have a free course for you. I can put you on a plan to fill gaps in your knowledge and fill gaps in your playing so you can move forward and reach your music goals. Enroll in your free video course now at guitarmusictheory.com. You can click on the link in the podcast show notes. All right, guitar engineers, thanks for listening. I'm Desi Cerna. Before you go, be sure to subscribe to this podcast, give it a 5-star rating, and leave a great review if you can. Then keep playing and stay tuned for more.